everyone. Hello and welcome to Leader Spotlight. I'm Tracy Clark, the Executive Director for the Louisa County Chamber of Commerce. And today I am thrilled to introduce you to the Operations Manager at Virginia CareerWorks, David Kilgore. David, thank you so much for being with us today.
And thank you for having me.
Yeah, I'm excited to get to know you a little bit better and introduce you to Louisa County and the programs and so forth that are coming to our county. It's very exciting and I know it's needed. But let's start our conversation really with getting to know you a little bit better. So tell us just a little bit about, I know you've got extensive background working in manufacturing and industry, and tell us a little bit about your background related to that.
Yeah, so I actually went to the University of Virginia a long time ago and ended up on the Virginia Peninsula for a number of years in manufacturing, and probably spent about 33 years in manufacturing, basically my entire career. And I had the opportunity to relocate to Charlottesville about 4 years ago, and I jumped at it. Our kids were out of school, and so we were empty nesters, and we thought this would be a great place to land. And so we came up about 4 years ago. I was in manufacturing in Orange County there. And then this position came up with Virginia CareerWorks, and workforce development has been a passion of mine for a long time. And I've had lots of interactions with people like Virginia CareerWorks Piedmont over the years, creating new and innovative programs. And you know, I'm a big believer in servant leadership, and it's my turn to serve and help this region.
Oh, that sounds great. I know we've had a little bit of interaction, and I'm excited to talk about what's coming and the work that you're doing. But I'm curious about manufacturing, and is that something as a kid that you just wanted to do, or how some kids are, I want to be a fireman when I grow up? I mean, has that been a lifelong passion for you, or what was something that kind of led you down the road to manufacturing?
Yeah, I would say no. I don't think many kids grow up and say that I want to be in manufacturing, but I ended up in engineering school. And when you go into engineering school, you can take a lot of different paths when you get out and start your career. And I really appreciated the process nature of manufacturing, and so I ended up actually worked in a manufacturing environment, earning money to go to college, and then ended up with an internship at a company that was a manufacturer on the peninsula, and then that led to a full-time job there after I graduated, and I've always enjoyed manufacturing because you get to meet so many people, right? It's not a research type job where you're all sort of the same, right? So you get to work with wonderful people, and they're at all levels of organizations and skill sets, and so that's always been another passion. And so I ended up in manufacturing for almost my entire career.
Wow. And you mentioned earlier when we were talking about UVA. So are you a Virginia native, or?
I am. I actually grew up in Williamsburg and met my wife there in high school, and we've been married ever since. And so I am a native of Virginia.
That's great. So you know a lot about the area. And you mentioned being back into Louisa. What was the draw to this area?
Yeah, so it was really so we had sort of targeted some vibrant cities, I'll call them, as we were trying to figure out our next move. And we sort of had Charleston and Savannah, Asheville and Charlottesville on the list. And when the opportunity came up to move back to the region and to live in Charlottesville, we jumped at it.
Yeah. What are some of your favorite things about this region, living here?
So I'm a big UVA fan. We got season basketball tickets, so we love that.
Okay.
Got to spend some time at the national championship, which was obviously a blast. But we also like the wineries. We like the mountains. We're close to Smith Mountain Lake, and my wife's family has a house there. So it's just really a perfect location, and it's centrally located for our daughters, one of which is a school teacher in Louisa. So I've got a soft spot for Louisa.
Oh, that's wonderful. Yeah. And of course, Smith Mountain Lake, Lake Anna, definitely, got the best of both worlds. A couple of beautiful.
That's right. They're beautiful bodies of water.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, that sounds great. I'm glad you're back in this area. And tell me a little bit about, was there any specific teacher or business environment, manufacturing environment, maybe it was a boss or a supervisor, was there anybody in particular that influenced you in your leadership style or into your growth, as a leader?
Well, I've been incredibly fortunate in my career to work for some wonderful people and work with some wonderful people. But I think I've always been attracted to those people that really showed the drive to be a servant leader. And I've had a lot of mentors over time, and I felt that they were really looking out for my interests. They were willing to tell me when things weren't going well, but they were also willing to encourage some exploration. So I've really tried to model my leadership style um, based on the leaders that I've worked with or worked for. They were really concerned about developing their staffs and developing the people around them.
So as a servant leader, you've mentioned that a couple of times. What type of work, whether it was conferences and trainings, or was it reading and books? I do a lot of personal development to develop my leadership style and my servant leadership as well. Was there anything that you have done in your path that you would recommend to other business leaders or people that are on that path?
Yeah, so I will say that almost all the folks that work for me, there are a few resources that I try to get them to engage in and read. And I think I did most of my learning reading. A lot of people like seminars and other people like to read or whatever it is, but mine was reading. I think Stephen Covey's Principle Centered Leadership is a great book. It's not his most popular,
Yeah.
but it really talks about value-based leadership, and that when it really comes down to it, if you get your values right, whatever they are for you, right,
Right.
and you can really lead from a value position, it really makes it easy because you're not concerned about the decisions that you're making. You're making good decisions based on your values. So that for me was really important, particularly at the beginning of my leadership career. I think the other topic, and I studied this for quite a while, are high performance teams. They've sort of changed names over time, and I'm probably dating myself, but the concept of high performance teams and the kind of environment you have to create to allow those teams to flourish and allow the people that are on those teams to really grow and excel is a little bit different. And it takes a lot of hard work and a lot of faith in the people that you're working with. And so I've spent a lot of time studying that, trying to work through that, and really trying to hone those skills. So I think those are the two things that probably were most important to me.
Yeah, such a good point. Stephen Covey, followed him. You don't hear much about Stephen Covey anymore, but his principles last. And there's so many resources out there now that are great. I'm a big reader as well. I need to check out those that you mentioned for myself, because I don't think I've read that particular book by him.
It's a great one. I actually think it's his best body of work that doesn't get the most press, for sure.
Oh, good. Well, I'll need to check that out. I'm curious, I like what you said about having a value system that you make your decisions from. And I think, the word that's used a lot is being an authentic leader. People know, and if they know and trust you and feel empowered to make mistakes, a lot of what I've been seeing lately is, you got to allow people to make mistakes for them to learn and grow from. In an environment like manufacturing, though, making mistakes could be pretty devastating. Like, how did you handle situations like that where you still allowed people to be empowered and run the risk of a mistake, but still manage to run an effective, profitable business?
Yeah, so it's a little bit of a trick in manufacturing, and you really have to rely on your processes and your process and controls to make sure you're not making mistakes that will affect the end product or the end consumer or safety topic, for example, because I spent a lot of
Yeah.
time in automotive and safety, and so there's certainly some non-negotiables about process controls and processes that are in place, and we certainly would never want somebody experimenting on a critical process. But
Right.
there are also tremendous opportunities for people who want to work through a continuous improvement project, that have a better idea of doing something. So what we would always encourage is that they followed our processes and our process controls, and if they had good ideas, we would support them in those ideas. but that it had to be a controlled rollout, right? We had to run testing. We had to do the right things to prove out the ideas. So it's not one or the other, right? You've got to do both. You've got to make sure the products you're producing are great products.
Right.
But you've also got to make sure that people feel compelled to offer suggestions and try new things. And if you can strike that balance, I think most people understand that balance, right? And if you can strike that balance, then it can be pretty magical.
Absolutely. That's a very good point. And I've never actually worked in a manufacturing environment, but it's always intrigued me. In my past, I've had the ability to go and tour a lot of facilities and be behind the scenes. And I'm just fascinated by everything that goes on. It is a dangerous environment. I'm glad you brought up that safety concept, because not every job has the same level of, risk associated with it. So that would be a pretty important to avoid mistakes. So no,
Yeah, that's right. I mean, that's the top priority, right? You've got to keep people safe, and when you're making products, you've got to make sure those products are safe as well and quality levels high. But that's the standard now. And
right.
so, I think 30 years ago, maybe not as much, but now that's really the standard. And so, almost everything in manufacturing, all the processes you build are to make sure that your people are safe, the product is safe, and that it's of a very high quality level.
Absolutely. Well, let's shift our conversation a little bit to Virginia Career Works, and let's just start out with, first of all, what is kind of your mission and purpose, and the involvement with Louisa County?
Yeah, so Virginia Career Works Piedmont is one of 15 Virginia Career Works groups within the state. We're split up into regions, and Louisa is in our Piedmont region. And we've basically got three primary responsibilities, right? We need to support businesses and best practice sharing and the tools they need to be successful. We need to work with our partners, and our partners could include Department of Social Services or DARS or chambers or anyone else interested in workforce. And we have the responsibility of coordinating those activities and making sure that we're collaborating and not duplicating efforts. And then, of course, we also support job seekers. In general, the job seekers we're supporting have some kind of barrier to employment. So we're not a recruiting firm, right? But we're really working hard to make sure that the job seekers, whether they're career switchers or coming out of school, potentially reentry folks, have access to resources that they need, and that we can provide them with either direct support or connect them with the partners that they may need to help get into the workforce. So we've really got those three things. We work with job seekers, or we try to call them career seekers, partners, that there's so many groups that are working on workforce development. We want to make sure that we're helping them and coordinating those activities. And then we want to support businesses and make sure they have the right tools available to attract and retain good employees.
Yeah. We've met recently, because I believe, you're launching a program directly in Louisa County, targeted at workforce. That's definitely the hot topic, I know, in our area. Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Yeah, so by the way, it's a hot topic in the country and
Yeah,
the state and the region and
absolutely.
Louisa, right? It's really a difficult topic right now, and we certainly understand the stress it's putting businesses under. So yeah, we had a Go Virginia grant that just ended, that was really based on the outreach efforts and creating tools for employers and job seekers to help us recover from the pandemic. That went really well. We were fortunate enough to apply and be awarded a second Go Virginia grant. And that grant is really targeted at the counties in our region that don't have a full-time career center. So we have full-time career centers in Charlottesville, Culpeper, and Orange. And we do a really nice job of serving the citizens of those cities or counties that are right near those job centers. And when we looked through all our data, we said, look, we're not doing as good a job reaching the people in Louisa or Nelson or Fluvanna, right? So we really worked hard to try to figure out why that was the case and what we could do going forward. This new Go Virginia grant is structured so that we're going to have a couple of things going on. We're actually hiring a communications and outreach person now, which is going to reach out to our partners in Louisa make sure that we're co-branding, that we're sending the same messages, that we're supporting the outreach efforts. But we're also going to be putting a resource specialist in Louisa, a minimum of 1 day a week, that's going to be there to support businesses, to really understand their needs and help them connect to the systems they need to connect to find good employees, and to help those that are looking for a career really get the resources and the support that they need as well. What we believe is that we have to get out of Charlottesville, right? We have to get into these communities, and we have to be present and well recognized. And that will lead to more success, both for the businesses and the job seekers. So we've kicked it off now. I expect we're going to be up and running sort of fully by sort of mid-September, maybe end of September. And then this grant will go through September 2022 to hopefully drive some great results in Louisa.
I have no doubt that it's going to drive results, and I'm very excited about what you're doing. It's definitely our priority as a chamber of helping our businesses get support with workforce. And let's talk a little bit about what types of businesses can be helped with your program. You know, yeah. Give us.
Yeah, so look, the state has some pretty strict rules about traded sectors and which sectors are supported. I will say the Virginia Career Works sort of, I mean, we clearly follow that. However, we will help any business that wants support, right? Or any job seeker that's looking for a particular career. So we're not going to discriminate based on target sectors and things like that. I mean, in general, the tools we're working on are tools for job seekers to know how to search for jobs, which kind of recruiting efforts might be best for them, whether it's LinkedIn or ZipRecruiter or Indeed or a Vol system or something else. We're working on.
Oh, I'm sorry to interrupt. Is that
Yeah, go ahead.
What type of job they're looking for that helps determine where? Okay.
Right. So if you're looking for an entry-level retail job, LinkedIn may not be the best place to go, right? Maybe Indeed a little better resource, or maybe the VOS system, the state system, where everyone who's unemployed in the state is registered. Maybe that's a better solution as well for businesses to look through. So I think you've got to sort of target the kind of career you're seeking, right, with the tools that are available. We're also working on a career pathways toolkit that we're going to share with businesses, where we really start to talk to the businesses about their non-negotiables for the various positions they have and what their rates are, and how we can start selling the concept of, you know, we're hiring for a career as opposed to hiring for a job, and really make it employee centric. Because that's what people need to hear now. You know, the world's changing, and so we've got to provide some guidance and maybe some different tools. So we hope that these sort of outreach efforts and the tools that we're developing are going to help us move through this period that is so crucial for businesses and so stressful. And we're going to be rolling those out, and I hope that some businesses are going to be willing to use the tools and, you know, have these discussions with us.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, there's definitely a need. Some of the most recent meetings that I've been on and looking at workforce, our hardest hit area in Louisa is in the retail and hospitality space. And while there is some level of a career path in those industries, how do you see your program helping a business like a restaurant business, or even a seasonal type of business like a cleaning company, or, you know, a boat rental company or something like that? How do you see your program helping in those areas too?
Yeah, so I'm always really cautious about overselling it, right? I mean, we're not a recruiting firm, and we're not going to show up with a whole bunch of people that can start working tomorrow. But the kind of things we'll do is share best practices we've seen in the nation really about hiring, and we'll talk about the company's non-negotiables, you know. And I'll just give you an example from my past, right? We used to always say you must have a high school diploma or a GED, and we were completely rigid about that. And then one of my mentors in this area said, "Dave, why do you guys do that?" And I went, "I have no idea. We've always done it." And when I talk to other businesses, they've always done it, right? And so when we really started looking hard at, is that a non-negotiable? The answer was no, it's not really. And so I think we can have these discussions with business owners or with the HR staffs at businesses and really try to provide some clarity and some other options that maybe they don't know exist today. And I think if we can provide new options and potentially sort of stretch the thinking about what's important for hiring an employee or moving an employee through the different levels within their organization, then potentially it's going to help them. And that's what we're here to do, is to try to, provide some guidance and support that can help businesses going forward.
You mentioned HR staff, businesses with HR staff. So a lot of our businesses, our small businesses that need help, don't have HR staff. The business owner is typically doing that. So do you still see your program being able to support them, and what does that look like?
Yeah, so I think it's actually going to be best suited for them. I think for companies that have an established HR staff, they're going to have thought through a lot of what we're going to talk about.
Okay.
Right. And I mean, the folks are talented, they're professionals, they know what they're doing. And so, I think that it certainly could help them. But I think it's really going to help folks that maybe don't have that same background, because I think that we can provide some guidance and some support that is maybe different than they've heard before or different than they thought about before. And I think I think these discussions could be very powerful for them.
That sounds great. And I'll ask you, I want to ask you a question for businesses that utilize contract services or contract employees. Do you see yourself as a resource for that type of business as well? Or
that's a little bit outside of our lane. I'm not going to say no, right? But we're really focused on creating careers and career pathways. And so I think when businesses, and look, there's some businesses that should be using tip agencies, that should be using seasonal workers, that should be, it's just, that's the nature of the business.
Right.
And I think we can certainly provide some guidance on resources, for example, H-2 visa programs or things like that. But I think that really we're a bit more focused on career pathways, and that typically doesn't necessarily occur with the seasonal workforce. It doesn't mean that those businesses don't have career pathways.
Right.
It just means that a reasonably large group of their employees are probably going to be temp or seasonal.
So I just want to ask a couple questions for those job seekers out there or employees of a particular business. Does Virginia CareerWorks offer them an opportunity? So let's just say I want to change careers and I want to learn how to be a welder. Is Virginia CareerWorks a source to go to get that training, or are you more of a connector, or how does that work?
So it could be both. So we run the WIOA program, the Workforce Innovation and Opportunities Act program, and there's some requirements on qualifying for that program. But if a job seeker, career seeker qualifies, we can certainly provide them with support, which could come in the form of free training, childcare, transportation, right? There are lots of options there. For those that don't qualify, we're still going to be there to help them, right? But then we'd do more of referencing into other programs with our partners or with the community colleges or adult education or folks like that. So there are a lot of career changers right now. It's certainly one of the things the pandemic has created is a lot of internal thought about a career and what someone wants to do long term. And we certainly are a resource they can use. Either directly, or we'll be happy to help connect them with the right partners.
That's great. Well, I'm certainly excited about you guys coming to Louisa. By the way, I'm not interested in becoming a welder. I was just using that as an example.
Well, welding's pretty lucrative, so it could be a good job.
It is. I do know that. I mean, any of those highly skilled professions, and there's longevity in those types of careers as well. So
absolutely.
Basics, but yeah, so I'm excited about what you're doing and coming into Louisa and working with you on helping to support our businesses, lift them up, and of course helping our community get back to work and so forth. Is there anything that perhaps, well, I know what I haven't asked you, so we'll hit that first, but Is there anything that perhaps I haven't asked you yet that you want to share or make sure that we tell our audience about your program or anything like that?
Well, I just encourage people, we're gonna be in Louisa. We're gonna try to be visible. But we would really appreciate it if you searched us out also, right? Sometimes that goes both ways. And I hope that we'll be able to interact with a lot of businesses, a lot of job seekers. We'll try to make sure you know where we are and when we're gonna be there. But I would really, would be very grateful if you'd also reach out.
Yeah, and just to remind everybody, Virginia CareerWorks is a Louisa Chamber member. You can go to our website, louisachamber.org, under the community info section, find a business, and you can find Virginia CareerWorks there. We're also on our chamber website working on a central page of information to get connected both as a business and getting help with your workforce, but also for job seekers and trying to help again, further this, all the resources that are available and getting people connected to the right people that they need at the time. So, but I do know, or I would ask you to share, Dave, what is kind of direct contact information for people to either enlist and get services as a business, or if they're a job seeker, what is that contact information?
Yeah, so the best thing to do is go to our website, bcwpiedmont.com. You're going to find all the resource guides. You're going to find the contact information for our one-stop centers. And that's a great place to start. You're also welcome to reach out to me, which is dkilgore@bcwpiedmont.com.
And you also have Sarah.
Yeah, Sarah Morden is our director, incredibly dynamic, and she's the visionary. And I'm sure you're going to see her in Louisa as well very often.
Yeah, she's been here quite a bit, so I know she's right on the spot working in the area as well, getting people connected. So I thank you so much for the time. I enjoyed getting to know you a little bit better and the program, and I know we're going to have more updates and ongoing work together. So thank you again for your time, and thank you everybody for joining us and meeting Dave Kilgore, Virginia CareerWorks Piedmont Region. With that,
Thank you.
have a good day.
Bye.